Crazy start here to the first tournament of patch 8.2. Enlight, a team that hasn't really been on our radar regarding the point standings, at least obviously in terms of the players on that team. Absolutely incredible. They're through to the top 3 with another big upset. They're 3-0, 3-0, 3-0 so far in this tournament, and they're on an absolute tear, just knocking down one of the favorites for the tournament, Zyzon, in that last series. And now we've got the last remaining teams in Europe. We've got our upper bracket. It's between Diabolus, who knocked down Changed My Mind on Friday, and of course the formidable Method Black that did actually knock down Enlight earlier in the tournament. And oh my goodness, Method Black are going to be playing the Rogue Mage Druid, but Diabolus are changing it up. They're bringing in Warwicks. I want to get your take real quick, Zico, before we hop into this one. What do you think about the Warlock coming in for Diabolus?
Well, I expected it to be the other way around, because Diabolus is the team that kind of everybody fears in these Rogue Mage Druid mirrors, because they're so good at doing these Druid races. So I was expecting them to for sure go for the Rogue Mage Druid, and Method Black to maybe swap to something else. It's going to be interesting to see, though. Warwick's finally going to be tagged in. This is why they brought him in on the roster. Let's see if they can put a point on the board.
Yep, we'll have to see. This is a rematch, of course, of the spring finals, where Method Black were reverse swept by Diabolus, who went through to the grand final. Can Method Black get their revenge?
I think what this series is going to speak to is whether or not Walrix is going to be of much use to Diabolus. I mean, Cloud9 have been running this composition to great success. No other team has really been able to match their success with it. So Diabolus certainly want to be taking advantage of it if they can. This is now the test. It's in the upper finals. It's versus the #1 point earners in Europe, Method Black. I would argue the #1 team in Europe overall. I think the points do fairly represent that. Swapsy has been on the bench for some time, I feel. Method Black have just been almost exclusively running this Rogue Mage Druid in the summer season, and so far it's still looking good with pressure on Walrix. Smoke Bomb dropped down by Waz, looking for even further pressure. Interrupted, unable to use Unending Resolve, and Cycloned at low health. Chaz has been on fire with these Cyclones, looking to switch it over, not able to. Asgrath denies it, but there's still quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, Chaz, he's chasing down Asgrath. He's looking for that Cyclone. Is he going to be able to find it? Unfortunately, no. Gets interrupted. Good backup there by Alec, and Alec is trying to play as defensive as possible for his team, but I feel like what they need is damage. I don't know if the Mage Lock Druid actually wins the long game. I think eventually what we've seen is the Destruction Warlock just becomes sort of a vulnerability. We need to see some big attempts here coming in from Diabolus if they want to find victory. Icy Veins pulled out by Alec. What are they going to be able to get done? Raikou, he's actually opting to not play. He's not playing the Temporal Shield in this match, so maybe not expecting to be a target, or maybe he doesn't think he needs the defense, or maybe he just wants the extra offense. Honestly, we'll have to see what they can get done. I'm going to take a peek at both of these mages' build here in a sec to see if any of them are running anything interesting. Walrick under fire at around 30% health right now. Asgrath trying to pick him up really quickly with that Iron Bark, and I think he should be able to do so. I think both teams are looking pretty stable at this point.
I feel like this is one of those cases where you've got a Destruction Warlock on one side, you've got an Assassination Rogue on the other. If this game goes into deeper dampening stages, the Assassination Rogue just pokes the Warlock a little bit and ends up winning. Diabolus are mixing it up here, trying to attack Chaz and looking to get a kill, or at least catch him off guard, forcing multiple cooldowns in that single swap. Certainly he will have to be more cautious for a few seconds in this specific matchup, otherwise he could end up throwing the game, but in his current position appears to be doing all right. No Gladiator's Medallion for Walrix. Smoke Bomb up in another minute and 10 seconds. That's a big opportunity, but all of these Restoration Druids now are running the Spring Blossoms build when playing with a Warlock. So the Efflorescence, that green circle on the ground, is a healing area of effect spell from the Restoration Druid. When you run the Spring Blossoms talent, it adds an additional heal over time effect, which scales their mastery up to a high level, increasing their overall healing output. Great talent build when healing a stationary target like a Destruction Warlock. We see almost every Restoration Druid running it now. Diabolus targeting down Raikou, but Chaz sees it coming, immediately stabilizing him from that attack. Both of these teams are looking evenly matched in game one.
Definitely back and forth at this point, and both of the mages are actually opting to run the Vision of Perfection, so It's quite a fun build. You get to basically have a chance to proc your Icy Veins, which obviously gives you a ton of haste. It allows you to get off a lot of Frost Bolts, or go for crowd control. If it procs at the right time, can be the difference between getting a polymorph and not. So we'll have to watch what mage is going to be proccing that and at what time, and see what they can really get done with it. Rake stun over onto Chaz. Good crowd control coming in from Diabolus, but they haven't really been able to get anything rolling just yet. And I think for Diabolus, I mean, when we watch Cloud9 run the Mage Lock Druid, one of their big win conditions is an all-in on the Druid, where they kind of save, you know, a Rake stun into a Bash, into an Infernal stun, into a Mortal Coil. At the same time, the Mage drops out, you know, Comet Storm, Ice Nova, the Frozen Orb, in a big all-in attempt. And if they can Kleptomania off the Gladiator Safeguard, they can definitely take down the Druid quite quickly. We've yet to see Diabolus try to pull off a maneuver like that, but I feel like that's the kind of plays they need to be looking for, because I just don't see them winning the long game.
Chaz getting good Cyclones here onto the enemy healer Asgarath, and then Cycloning Walrix at low health. I would say that probably Chaz is one of the best Druids with Cyclone in the tournaments. He's definitely able to effectively utilize it and build a lot of momentum as a result. Certainly one of the factors to Method Black's success with this rogue mage druid. Gladiator's Maledict activated towards Walrick. They're really trying to turn up the heat. They dropped the smoke bomb looking for that opening they had developed earlier, but Walrick just waddles out of it. It's a bit of a dropped ball by Method Black. That could have been a big opportunity to get an unending resolve. Chaz is still trying to assist with Cyclones, but inevitably gets counterspelled. Still no Iron Bark for some time. Dampening has just started, and Chaz has a mana advantage. That is not looking good, because that was one other way that Diabolus could win this in Dampening. Otherwise, it's just that impending matchup, the Assassination Rogue versus the Destruction Warlock, and we've seen time and time again the Assassination Rogue wins.
Yeah, I can't help but feel like Diabolus got outpicked in this game. I think if they knew Method Black was going to be running the Rogue Mage Druid, they would have been comfortable going into a mirror, but Method Black, of course, they're a team that can... Ooh, there's the Ice Block coming from Raikou. I was wondering if he was going to be able to get that off. He got quite low. That was a scary situation. He comes out early. Alex still doing good damage. Icy Veins procced for Raikou. He's looking to get really aggressive. There's only one Ice Block left, and maybe Diabolus isn't looking too bad in this matchup. Raikou getting really aggressive is going to have to play a little bit more careful. You can see good damage coming in. Alec drops the Frozen Orb. Raikou actually used both of his shimmers, so he's kind of just locked down in this moment. He's got no mobility, really trying to tank through a lot of that damage with that Iron Bark. Like I was saying, you know, Method Black as a team, not only do they run Rogue Mage Druid, but they have lots of other options. They can run the different cleave setups, like the Demon Hunter Death Knight. And I think if Diabolus blind locked in the Rogue Mage Druid, that's what they're afraid of, the Demon Hunter Death Knight, and that's probably why they decided to go with the Mage Lock Druid. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Method Black, they locked in the Rogue Mage Druid, and things are looking good.
Even the Demon Hunter Death Knight, we've seen the Rogue Mage Druid strategy of just running at the other team's healer.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what they were anticipating. I just think they would have been confident in the mirror, don't you think?
I would have thought so. Otherwise, maybe they're just trying to say, like, we can make Walrix work, we can play this better than Cloud9. So far, I mean, they still have potential to win this with Raikou down one Ice Block, but we haven't seen any of those swaps. Only one on Chaz earlier, but not nearly as coordinated as what we would see from Cloud9. So I do want to see Diabolus look for those opportunities. It seems like they're just playing it patiently in center field, teeing off on anyone that comes in their line of sight. But so long as Raikou is aware of that and repositions adequately, then I feel like he can avoid a lot of damage quite easily. Dampening continues to rise, now at 15%. Get to that 30-40% mark. Walrix, he's going to become a liability, and if we look at his defense, he doesn't have unending resolve, which is a good way to answer during that critical moment of the match. Asgarath is very low on mana. I would say that things are snowballing out of control for Diabolus. It's up to them to get things rolling, and right now they're playing, I would say, too passively.
Yeah, I really want to see them attempt to go for those all-in setups. Asgarath's mana is doing really poorly. He's at 10% right now. I think he's trying to sneak away, get out of combat, and get a drink. We'll have to see if they're able to shut that down. Chaz moves forward. Is he going to be able to stop him? Yes, he does. Asgarath not able to recover too much mana. Kidney shot now on Walrix. And I think Diabolus is struggling in this situation.
All right, let's see if they can get something going. Right now, they're on the back foot. Asgarath's locked down in crowd control. Method Black have engaged. Walrix is trying to take control of the fight by fearing Waz. They do manage to stabilize him with crowd control. Of course, both teams bring an exorbitant amount of crowd control in this particular matchup. So every time that Asgrath is stunned or polymorphed, it is up to Alec and Walrix to then crowd control Raikou and Waz. They do this with Polymorph and Fear. And if they can get those crowd controls, they're going to stop all damage on themselves. If they can't, then they're going to get overwhelmed and run over. Smoke Bomb gets dropped again by Waz. Vendetta available, maybe a bait here for an Iron Bark, and then go for the kill with Vendetta. Asgrath's not falling for the bait. He stabilizes Walrix. Raikou is interrupted, but Raikou has correctly adapted his positioning. Actually, a little bit recklessly blinking into midfield, although he does have polymorphs for Alec, and Walrix is stunned. He can safely be out here, but he may look to navigate back to the pillar shortly. Chaz is crossing midfield, sets up for a stun. Raikou blinks over, gets the follow-up. This is where Alec and Walrix need to take control of the fight. Walrix is going to use Mortal Coil, and instead of crowd controlling, they're trying to counter pressure with a counter spell secured onto the healer Chaz. Maybe they can get a second ice block. Raikou is going to reposition during this crowd control. Will it be enough? Raikou is stunned up, going to be using that every man for himself, breaking out of it, then looking to get aggressive again. Walrix stunned on his Dark Soul. A bit surprising to not see him trinket this. I feel like we're not going to see this game go long enough that Smoke Bomb even becomes another threat. He doesn't get any damage really out with that Dark Soul. He's still just under fire, and eventually Waz's damage is going to be overwhelming.
Yeah, that's just how we see this matchup play out. That's why I don't think it's necessarily favorable unless they're going for these all-in attempts. Eventually, maybe Waz could be a target. Keep in mind, he's just sitting in the midfield. If Walric and Alec can get some damage rolling onto Waz and force him to run away, that's a position that would be advantageous for them. But so far, Waz has been able to do whatever he wants in this matchup. He's just sitting in midfield, sticking onto Walrix. He's never had to run. He's never had to retreat at any moment. But keep in mind, he's got no Cloak of Shadows. There's a big Chaos Bolt flying his way. He's getting low. Chaz definitely having to play catch-up. Kleptomania. Waz actually in a lot of trouble. Are they going to be able to take him down? The bash. Waz flailing for his life, throwing out the feint. Iron Bark comes in as well, barely holding on. And that safeguard trinket can be very, I mean, it can be off-putting, especially if it gets spell stolen right away. You think you have the safety net, and then it just gets removed instantaneously by the enemy mage. And that was a really, really close call for Method Black.
Diabolus have an interesting strategy with their interrupts. So the counter spell and their spell lock, they're almost exclusively dedicating it to Chaz. Normally you would see those interrupts on the mage Raikou to stop polymorphs, but Diabolus are allocating it onto the druid instead, and every time they land these interrupts, especially in succession, that's a huge amount of time that Chaz can't heal, and that's why that moment was so scary for Waz. Diabolus do take some risks by dedicating their interrupts to the druid. It means that Raikou can do whatever he wants, but so far, it hasn't really surmounted into too much. Perhaps as dampening gets higher, it will cost them the game. Asgrath's going to make a trade here for the Frozen Orb, activating his Iron Bark. That's a good trade in terms of cooldowns. Walrix is going to take no damage as a result. Waz is going to be the dedicated target for Diabolus, as he is the most overextended. This is also in an attempt to try and pull Chaz away from the pillars of line of sight so that he has to heal Waz, and if he overextends, then he's susceptible to crowd control or maybe even being swapped to. Chaz is going to be dropping down his Iron Bark here, and Diabolus decide to press the pause button on Waz with Polymorph and switch targets. Instead, Raikou doesn't have that defense, and a second Ice Block is forced almost immediately. We see here once again, Counterspell on Chaz. If Diabolus can keep up these interrupts, they now have their Unending Resolve here at Deep Dampening, and they have a good opportunity to find victory. Chaz is the one who needs to be fake casting through those interrupts, and if he can't, Diabolus may take it.
Yeah, and dampening's at 43% at this point, so it's going to be a struggle for Asgrath to actually top off Walrix. In terms of mana, Chaz is just so far ahead. He's at 80% mana. Asgrath's way behind. Walrix getting low. Unending Resolve forced to be traded out. That's a Gladiator safeguard. Walrix trying to capitalize on that situation. He's going to be throwing out some Chaos Bolts over Raikou's way. Chaz trying to keep him alive, but that's the Iron Bark overlapped with the Ice Block, and now look at Raikou. He's really vulnerable. Doesn't have many defensive honor talents. And look at Asgrath. He actually trinkets out of a polymorph. Walrix still incredibly low. Chaz had to trinket out of a polymorph. This is scary for both teams, but I think it's ultimately Walrix who's going to fall in this matchup. Interrupt with the Ring of Frost over onto Asgrath. The Assassination Rogue damage just overwhelms. 48% dampening, our highest of the day. Method Black, they're going to take victory.
Both the druids kind of had little gaffes at the end. I think both of them tanked a sheep, or like one trinketed a bash into a sheep, and then at the same time Asgrath tanking a sheep, trinketing into a blind. So unfortunate at the end, but it was really back and forth. And I'm going to be honest, Method Black were lucky to get away with that one, Zika.
I think Method Black they did an intelligent blind pick. Usually we criticize their picks a little bit, but this was a good pick for them. I think the Mage Lock Druid isn't, you know, it's not that great against the Rogue Mage Druid. You have to really, really play it at like the highest skill ceiling to be able to win some of these matchups. So I think Chaz did a good job managing his mana, and I think the strategy of Method Black was good as well. Just have the Mage and the Druid kind of at a pillar, like you can see right here, and you know, just have Waz as the, you know, they like to call it the meat shield or like the tank when I play with them. That's what they like to call that strategy. Soaker. Yeah, basically the aggro soaker. He's just there. He is the guy you want to be healing, and as long as the other members of Method Black aren't taking that much damage, Waz gets a lot of uptime, and then eventually you get to a point where you can start withering through those cooldowns. Assassination Rogue, you know, healing reduction, poison, as well as just the pressure that you can bring. Eventually it just becomes too much.
Yeah, so you do think the matchup is favored towards Method Black then? Because I mean, at some points in that game, I'm not going to lie, it looked really scary. Waz was like 1% health at one time with nothing. Raikou no blocks at the end, but you still think that Method Black with a clean game should be winning this matchup?
Well, unless they're playing as Cloud9.
Okay, unless it's Cloud9 on the other side. But Diabolus, what did you think of their Rogue Mage, their Mage Lock Druid then in this matchup? Were we impressed? Because we haven't really seen them play it too much. Warwick hasn't played. For you, Sid, you were saying Warwick's addition to this roster is justified or not justified by how they play this composition. What did we think of their performance in that first game?
I think they had a strategy that was unique to themselves. I mean, they were pretty close to finding victory, and it ended up being, like you said, a slip-up between both of the Druids. It was more detrimental in that moment in time for Asgrath because Warwick didn't have unending resolve. Raikou still had one ice block, so because they were one cooldown ahead, when both healers make a mistake at the same time, the team with the one cooldown is going to win that exchange compared to the team without any cooldown. So it was unfortunate, but they definitely showed signs of life with their interrupt strategy into the late game, and it was certainly scary for Method Black. I'm sure Method Black are going to consider that moving into game 2, but I think they're going to play Rogue Mage Druid pretty much every game, and now it's up to whether or not Diabolus decide to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of history between these two teams. This is, of course, the upper bracket final, so the loser will drop down to lower bracket where they'll meet Enlight. The winner goes through directly to the grand final today for Europe. And there is a lot of history between these two teams. You know, Diabolus, we talked about them, formerly known as AWC, World Champions 2017, as a team that hadn't really practiced too much in the spring season. Let's be honest, you know, they were saying they play maybe once a week for their cap, then they enter the tournaments. They do well anyways because these guys are such fantastic players. But ever since they've added Warwick and they started to kind of gel a little bit better without Jamie, they seem to have started to step it up really in the summer season. And they've been the team that has brought it to Method Black, whereas basically every other team hasn't been able to touch them so far in this entire year for Europe.
I feel like a lot of that, like their success in the spring season, and maybe they weren't putting in the most work, but still, you know, finding victory, comes down to the fact that Asgrath, Nixie, and Alec are really good at Rogue Mage Druid. I mean, this is the composition that they won BlizzCon with, and it plays very similar to how it did in the past, so they can kind of just use that composition, show off how good they are at it, especially in mirrors, and when a lot of teams like Method Black are relying on the Rogue Mage Druid as their primary composition, it just puts them in a prime spot to show what a consistent team they are.
With that said, would Method Black lock in the Rogue Mage Druid here, do we think?
Yeah. I think on blind picks, they should lock it in, but then on counter picks, maybe they go with something else. They have a lot of comp options.
Do you think they'll lock in Mage Lock Druid here? Is there any chance?
Well,
they do like their Mage Lock Druid.
they would face Diabolus Rogue Mage Druid or Mage Lock Druid Mirror.
I feel like for Method Black, I kind of agree with you. They should go with Rogue Mage Druid until, I mean, at worst, I go into a mirror. Yeah. And I mean, it's Method Black. They could probably do okay in a mirror. I think they're going to be okay. It would speak volumes to me if they went with something else. Like, if they don't lock in Rogue Mage Druid, they must really not be confident in a mirror, and that would be really surprising for me.
I would love to see it because we've heard kind of rustlings and rumors amongst the teams that Diabolus just has a killer Rogue Mage Druid mirror. And we saw it a little bit on Friday, I guess, because we obviously saw them beating Change My Mind, I believe. They won one game of a mirror, whereas Change My Mind were running other compositions, kind of scared of that matchup. And Method Black do lock it in. So this is really the test here. If Diabolus locks in the Rogue Mage Druid mirror and we get to see that and then Diabolus wins, then I'll be blown out the water, absolutely impressed with these guys, because Method Black we think of as the Rogue Mage Druid. But once again, Diabolus actually favoring their Mage Lock Druid, which, I mean, that first game, it was very close, but what do we think of this pick? Because, I mean, I would have loved to have seen a mirror.
I think we all would have.
Yeah.
Like everyone would have.
Yeah. It's just
everybody watching the tournament. But, I mean, this kind of just says to me, Diabolus, they feel like this is a matchup they should be winning. I mean, if we go back to the spring finals, they lost. I'm pretty sure they lost every game against Cloud9, right?
The two teams swapped this around as well, bear in mind.
Yeah, Diabolus played Rogue Mage Druid at the spring finals and lost 0-4 against Mage Lock Druid. So maybe they're being a little bit bullheaded right now, or maybe they just feel like they should have won that last game. There was definitely moments where Waz lived at 3% health. Raikou barely got his ice block off. So it wasn't a one-sided matchup. The problem for me is I feel like if Method Black plays defensively really well, they just kind of win in the late game just because of the Assassination Rogue and the Destruction Warlock. If they can bring it, 40, 50% dampening, that game ended at 48%. So that's kind of the mark or the magic number, as Sid liked to talk about, where it's really difficult for Asgrath to heal him up. Every time Kleptomania comes up for Raikou, if they can get any crowd control on Asgrath, Walrick's HP just goes down and it doesn't really recover.
This is a dangerous proposition, but maybe if they keep running in this Mage Lock Druid, they think they'll just beat Enlight with that Mage Lock Druid and then they can rematch Method in the final. But underestimating Enlight seems a little bit scary. I'm not sure I'd want to do it. Diabolus finding themselves down one game. Maybe they'll be able to clean it up on the bigger map here on Tolvaron.
All right, let's see if they can here. Diabolus came very close to getting a kill in game number 1. Here on a larger map, they'll be able to have a lot more distance to bait the enemy into the open, and they will not be able to escape so easily. I think that is the main point that Diabolus look to exploit here on Tolvaron. Alec charging to center field, looking to try and find one of the enemy members in stealth. So currently Method Black is invisible to their opponents as Rogue Mage Druid. They all have access to a stealth ability. Asgarath is going to get found. Waz opens immediately, stunning Alec, silencing Walrix. They polymorph Alec, likely to polymorph him again. And then maybe we see them blink in for polymorph on Asgarath. No, Asgarath is far too far away from this fight, so crowd control will subside for Method Black. Instead, just looking to develop some pressure, get Rupture rolling onto Walrix. Raikou can generate some icicles. It looks like Raikou has got 5 right now, so every Frostbolt he casts, he gets 1 Icicle, and then he can use Ice Lance to launch them, which he has now launched towards Walrix, trying to get rid of that Soul Leech shield from the Warlock before making a big push, although on Tolvaron Arena prior to dampening, it may be unlikely that we see Method Black make a big push this early on.
I mean, it's just really difficult to take down Walrix. I think the biggest thing is they need a little bit of offense. See, the thing is for Method Black, I don't think this is one of those matchups where they can just hide behind the pillar and win. I think they have to have Waz in there, interrupting Walrix, slowing him down, and although they're not getting the most work done in terms of actually taking him down, they are slowing down his offense, keeping themselves in the game and getting to their win condition. I think a little bit of offense is probably their best defense in this situation. Waz, Raikou still trying to develop some momentum. In the last game we saw, Asgaroth, he struggled a little bit with his mana, but it didn't end up mattering too much. He never got to the point where he was completely tapped on mana. And I think, Sid, that is largely due to some of the new essences that we're seeing.
Yep, definitely going to be the ever-rising tide in the memory of Lucid Dream that allow the Restoration Druids to maintain a high amount of mana for most of the fight. Definitely a combination the Restoration Druids are going to be looking to exploit. I think for the Shamans, though, Tana was running a unique build with the Vitality Conduit Miner. It was definitely interesting to see on his part. I'm wondering if any teams, maybe even in North America, are going to look to try and utilize that moving forward in the tournaments for patch 8.2. Both teams continuing to just develop pressure onto each other. It is Method Black in the early game that will be taking more damage, which is why we likely see them focused more on defense. They do need to wait for deeper stages of dampening to get through the Soul Leech effect of the Destruction Warlock and the healing output of the Restoration Druid. If they try to make a push now, the target is going to be too durable, and then they expose themselves to the plethora of casted crowd control and damage spells of Diabolus. So far, no real openings. Decent damage right now onto Raikou, or from Raikou onto Walrix, but not even finding an Iron Bark. Mana is even at this point between both these teams. The cooldowns are even as well. well. Smoke bomb available. Perhaps Waz can look to make a move with that. Asgrath, smartly so, getting into stealth, exploiting that feral affinity, and then stunning Waz. That allowed his team to develop a huge amount of pressure. Warwick's is also running that Fel Fissure Honor talent, so every time he Chaos Bolts, it is going to place a green circle of Fel on the ground, which reduces healing on anyone standing in it by 50%. So if the target is stunned, they won't be able to move out of its healing reduction effect.
Ooh,
that's definitely a good way to build pressure, but this is the smoke bomb from Waz. Method Black make a push. Warwick's is a bit unresponsive. His Gladiator Safeguard going to proc, and that Mortal Coil heal is going to allow him to bounce back in the fight. But they do spell steal off the Gladiator Safeguard. Warwick's down at 50%, but Asgrath is no longer in crowd control. It's Raikou who needs to be careful. He spent quite a bit of time in midfield, and he definitely took some hits from it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a little bit of a scary moment. They dropped the smoke bomb. They got good crowd control. They got the safeguard out of the way, and now Warwick's could be a little bit vulnerable moving forward. Mana still heavily in favor of Chaz, like we kind of talked about. Not sure how much the mana really is going to matter. It seems like until way later in the game where Resto Druids have to spam out regrowths, they're just not going to be going out of mana with just some of the new essences. They're just so powerful. We're about a minute away from dampening at this point. This is Polymorph onto Asgrath. Good control. Follow-up Cyclone. Kidney shot onto Walrix. And he is getting low, but I think he should be just fine. Raiku's throwing out a big Shatter combo. He's about 50% health. Cyclone still onto Asgrath. Doesn't have the Iron Bark to fall back on. Netherward going to be traded out. And it looks like Raiku's trying to get it off and does manage to do so with the Spell Steal. Right now, Method Black, they're not under pressure whatsoever. I think in the last game, they realized there was a few close calls. And I know Method Black, they're a team that will play into their win condition. They don't want to be taking too many risks. I mean, as long as they have Waz in the open, I think Chaz is going to be able to easily heal him up. As long as Raikou doesn't overextend, and he always has at least one Shimmer to run away. Right now, Raiku's getting aggressive. Got a proc on his Icy Veins. He managed to find a Polymorph over onto Alec and moved into the midfield. Chaz slowing some of the healing coming in from that Iron Bark of Asgarath with getting a Cyclone onto Walrix, but that's going to fade. Good control here from Diabolus, but I really feel like Diabolus, they need to take a few more risks in this matchup. I want to see a big coordinated assault. It seems like all they're trying to do is just attack whatever's in the open. They're not making a coordinated all-in play. I think that's just one of the major differences we see when a team like Diabolus runs the Mage Lock Druid in comparison to a team like Cloud9. They just don't have those all-in attempts sort of figured out, that strategy perfectly executed, and they lose a major win condition because of it.
Method Black continuing to play it patiently. I would say that is the smart decision here, as they're already 1 point up in the series. If they can just get 2 up and move to match point, then I would say it's pretty much guaranteed they're going to have victory here, unless Diabolus can reverse sweep them in a mirror. I feel like the mirror might be their only way out at this point if Mage Warlock Druid doesn't work on their best map to run the composition. Walrix lobbing out a couple Chaos Bolts onto Raikou. Down to half, he's repositioning at the pillar, but gets Ice Nova'd for a second. Chaz, though, with an immediate Swift Mend, stabilizing him along with the Iron Bark. Raikou needs to reposition out of that Fel Eruption as soon as possible. Doesn't want to be standing in Fel Fissures. Raikou blinks in and secures crowd control off the back of Waz's cheap shot. Good coordination there between Raikou and Waz. You can tell years of synergy developed between them on this roster. I would say overall is all 3 of Method Black, and then their pickup of Swapsy as the 4th really rounds out their roster. They've got the setup and they've got the dampened strategies with Swapsy now on their roster as well. This is why Method Black is so dominant in the European scene. Raikou, though, being tempted at his life by Diabolus. Chaz ends up getting caught in a polymorph. Raikou is still in trouble and interrupted. Alex Ray of Frost fully channeled. Asgrath jumps into the fight. Raikou going to be wrapping around the corner alongside Chaz to recover, and this is really where Raikou's defensive play comes in. I feel like he's probably one of the most difficult mages in the game to kill. I'm not sure if he just has some sort of buff, the Raikou buff, where he just takes 20% less damage from being Raikou or something, but he is definitely one of the most difficult mages to kill. He is going to be positioned much more defensively here. Method Black still waiting for that deep dampening win condition on the Destruction Warlock.
Yeah, I mean, and it's inevitability. I feel like unless Method Black really makes a mistake, I think they have this game underway. And my major question is, if Method Black does win this game, what is Diabolus going to do? I mean, it doesn't seem like they have a clear win condition with the Mage Lock Druid. I don't know if they just haven't figured it out, or it's not the best matchup, or maybe Method Black's playing Rogue Mage Druid in a way where it's really difficult for Diabolus to actually land a kill. But I have to say, it seems like Method Black is favored in this matchup. So I wonder why Diabolus just isn't switching to the Rogue Mage Druid. I mean, maybe Nixie isn't available, something like that. Maybe they're just being stubborn. I'm not sure. We'll have to see what happens if Method Black does win this game. But if we just look at point standings overall, obviously this is still the upper bracket. I'm pretty sure Method Black has made the finals of every single cup this entire year. They've either gotten second or first, literally every single cup. And I mean, that's just why I put them at winning this tournament. They've just been so consistent. It seems like they have every single meta composition. If they don't have one of the best compositions, they start practicing it all day, every day until they do, or at least until they find an answer to win. And I mean, they're just such a consistent team. They have been this entire year. Diabolus, of course, right now, they need to get this win. They want to keep advancing and marching through that upper bracket and make it to the grand finals. Right now, they are currently not in the top 4. And you have to be in the top 4 if you want to make it to that summer finals. I feel like at this point in Europe, it's pretty much a guarantee that Method Black is going to be the team that qualifies on points. I would bet on it for sure.
If they don't win in Summerland. I mean,
if they don't get first or second at the Summer, that's true. If they don't get first or second at the Summerland, they are the team that has such a commanding lead on points. I don't see any team really catching up to them. There is an attempt here over onto Raikou. Alec actually has traded out both of his ice blocks, so he could be vulnerable a little bit later on. Raikou actually getting bursted down. Alec putting out big burst damage. Frozen Orb, Common Storm, Ice Nova, everything gets traded out, but Chaz deflects that with the Iron Bark. I'll have to see if Raikou's going to be able to survive. I think we're at around 28%, 27% dampening right now. In the last game, it took around 48% healing reduction in order for Walrix to fall. But Sid, do you see any openings for Diabolus?
I mean, the only opening is their interrupt strategy. So now, in the deeper dampening stages, I expect Alec and Walrix to shift their spell lock, shift their counterspell usage to Chaz. And then it comes down to Chaz. Can he avoid those interrupts? If he can, then they're going to overwhelm Walrix. They might just kill him right now through Iron Bark. Dampening is now at 30%. They drop the Smoke Bomb. This is to try and get Unending Resolve on top of it. They Cyclone Walrix at low health. Iron Bark is going to be fading. If they can get both defensive cooldowns in one singular push, this could be lights out for Diabolus in game number 2. But Walrix deflects, double Mortal Coil. Going to be healing himself up, getting a couple Chaos Bolts onto Raikou. Where are you going to go, Raikou? You're in midfield, facing a Destruction Warlock and a Mage. This could be devastating. Maybe we look to see if he shimmers back to the pillar. You're spending a lot of time out in the open, and that's because he's used his counterspell on Walrix to stop Chaos Bolt from being casted. Boss going to try and reconnect, but annoyingly feared away by Walrix. Raikou is a bit reluctant to retreat. Alec currently with Icy Veins rolling, although it could be the Vision of Perfection. Icy Veins, perhaps they should look to respect that cooldown. Alec is going to be doing an enhanced amount of damage at this point in time. Asgarath repositions. He saw Chaz sneaking across the map to crowd control him, so he's going to make a quick getaway. Chaz in stealth trying to find him, but gets sniped by Walrix with the Shadow Fury. Beautiful Shadow Fury on Walrix. Now Asgarath can see Chaz and more easily avoid him. We see Asgarath reposition away. If Chaz can get on top of Asgarath during this time, there's actually no ice blocks on Alec, and Asgarath has no Gladiator's Medallion, but I mean the safest strategy is still to just tunnel down the Warlock until deep dampening, I think, and just push him over like a wet noodle at that point. But they could switch to Alec if they get crowd control. Chaz gets Ursul's Vortex back on his Wild Charge and now gets swapped to. This is a big mistake by Chaz getting caught out, but fortunately for him, he has a Gladiator's Medallion. He can escape that situation, but he won't be able to again for another 2 minutes.
Now, this is where I want to see a big all-in. They have the Infernals. They're going to have the Icy Veins without Chaz having a Trinket. I really want to see Diabolus go after Chaz and try to just remove the Gladiator Safeguard when it procs and all-in him. I really think they can do it. We'll have to see if they actually execute on that. Right now, I mean, Raikou's got both of his ice blocks. He's sitting pretty at this point. You can see Chaz using the Iron Bark, allowing Raikou to sit in the open with his Icy Veins and start really generating some pressure. I feel like unless Diabolus starts getting some damage rolling over onto Waz, they're just waiting to lose. Like, they need to either force Waz away, they need to try to set up a one-shot onto Chaz. I think going after Raikou is a strategy that works if the Mage isn't paying attention, but if he keeps the Shimmer and he just runs behind the pillar anytime he's in danger, I think Chaz is going to be able to keep him up for quite some time. And I really feel like Diabolus have to turn their attention somewhere else.
Wondering what build Waz is running, if he's focusing on versatility. He is running mostly versatility as the primary stat to make himself more durable. Makes sense. I mean, he's the rogue. He needs to be in melee range of the target, which means he's going to be in midfield, so he's going to take more damage. So building his character around taking less damage makes a lot of sense. It allows him to soak up huge amounts of damage and stay on target a little bit longer, which is exactly what he needs. We are now at that mark where dampening becomes overwhelming for the Warlock, and Asgarath is completely out of mana, but luckily his Innervate's up, so he gets free healing for a couple of seconds here to save Walrix. But even still with that free healing, is struggling. Ironbark is about to fade. If they can get an ending resolve, he gets interrupted. He can't. Waz is looking to close it out. Alec is keeping him slowed down with the Cone of Cold, but inevitably Waz going to be reconnecting. Vendetta, Smoke Bomb available. Could be a big push. They drop the Smoke Bomb. They Frost Nova him inside the Smoke Bomb, then into the Kidney Shot, but they opt to Cyclone him at not too low of health. I'm not the biggest fan of this Cyclone right now on Warcraft. This is probably one of the few times where I'm not a fan of Chaz's Cyclones. Raikou is forced to blink back, but he's got Icy Veins up. He wants to finish the game, but he's stunned. A big Chaos Bolt. He's not going to Ice Block.
Ironbark.
Disrespect by Raikou. I mean, at 51% dampening, that Ironbark may have not been enough. A risky decision by Method Black, but they do survive. Asgrath, is he drinking? How much mana did he get? Waz was trying to find him, but he can't find him. Blizzard is 1 inch away from him. I think he went back to at least half. He's got enough mana to keep this fight going now for some time, and if you're Method Black, that is not good.
I wonder if mana even matters. Like, I feel like they should have just focused their damage on Walrix instead of trying to shut down that drink. I think healing reduction is just so high. The Assassination Rogue, no matter what Asgaroth really tries to do, is again eventually going to fall. And instead of chasing him down, trying to distract him and sap him or go for a Blizzard when you don't exactly know where he is, just attack the Warlock. And ultimately, I don't think it's going to matter too much in the situation. Raikou forced away once again. Alec doing a good job with his damage. And he just started landing some pressure onto Waz, though. I feel like they have to make him run away. Chaz kind of really struggling to top off Raikou in the situation. We are at 56% dampening. Walrix does land a Chaos Bolt over onto Waz. Interrupt now on Alex. Raikou blinking in. What damage does he have available? It's going to be a Comet Storm. There's no Frozen Orb just yet, but the next Kidney Shot Frozen Orb is going to be devastating here for Walrix.
All right, let's see if they can just close it out here. Huge damage, dampening at 60%. We're getting close to that mark where we're going to prove who is right and who is wrong between us on the desk. I think this game is actually going to decide it. What did you say, 62%, Ven?
We've got 63, 65, 67, and Zico with
I was 65.
71.
It's whoever
that's
is
what we're doing.
closest without going over, right? So 65 is my number. We're getting pretty close to that 62. Are you worried?
No, I was wrong already. My prediction's already wrong. I'm out of this.
We're supposed to at least pretend to care. So it's
I care a lot. I really hope it doesn't go over that magic number. Kidney Shot on Walrus. Interrupt over on Asgarath. Method Black looking to close out the game. Waz single-handedly trying to set something up. We'll see if he can get it done. Raikou, Frozen Orb up in around 30 seconds. Still, Walrix able to hold on. Big Shatter combo from Raikou.
62.
He's been putting out a lot of damage.
Oh, you lose.
I'm out. That's fine.
All right, 65
well, it's
is
the
the
other
next
way around,
one.
right? If it goes over, if your prediction's over, you lose. So
no.
If it were to end right now, Venriku would still be in it.
No, he wouldn't. I would be, because it's closer to, I'm going to lose too. It's going over 65. What did you bet, Zico?
71. It's not going over 71.
Yeah, I think Zico wins.
We'll see.
All right, if he dies,
wait, look.
Please die right now.
Ironbark is coming up. If he can hold on just a little bit longer, Alex needs to get some damage. Raikou actually blinks into the midfield. Big Chaos Bolt coming in. Raikou just blocks it, even though it was Ironbark. That was actually a little bit of a scary moment. There is hope here for Diabolus. You would expect them to lose at this point, but because Raikou overlapped his Ice Block with the Ironbark, there's a small chance they could take him down. Full Kidney Shot coming in from Waz. Asgaroth just spamming out Nourish. The Cyclone on his Trinket, denying the heals from Ironbark. I like that Cyclone coming in from Chaz. Chaz actually gets interrupted. There's no follow-up Cyclone, but at this point, Raikou can just free cast Frostbolt. Smoke Bomb gets dropped out. Asgaroth in a nightmare situation. 69% reduction in healing, and Walrix falls. I think the only one still left in this is Zico.
Yeah.
He won.
Yeah.
69% dampening there, and Warwick does end up falling Method Black. I had 67, but it goes over that. So Zico with the 71.
Still a chance he loses too.
If anyone in the chat, if anyone responded to our tweet with 69, then I guess you've got it. But 69% dampening was the amount needed there, and now it is 2-0 to Method Black. We pondered this question at the start. We were, well, if they lose this game, where do they go now? Because they've tried this Mage Lock Druid twice. It hasn't worked twice. The first game, I think they had a bit more offensive pressure, but on the drawn-out map, all it did was draw out their inevitable demise, it felt like, Zico.
Well, where they go now is most likely to the loser's bracket if they don't come up with something. They have one more game to do it. Now on match point here, Diabolus. The Magelog Druid didn't really... I mean... It looked better on Nagrand, to be honest. This game was like, okay, you forced that one block of Raikou, and it was kind of unnecessary. He blinked in, he had Iron Bark, and then he just blocked the Chaos Bolt for fun because, you know, he knew we were so far ahead. So I feel like Method Black at this point they're just going to stick to the Rogue Mage on the blind pick. Diabolus probably going to go ahead and swap over to Rogue Mage Druid. And I got to say as well that low Cyclone by Chaz was amazing. And he always does that. And the Smoke Bomb as well by Waz. He smoke bombed that one of the Nourish casts from Asgarath to shut down that healing, so they get more pressure, which ultimately led to the kill. So, you know, nice stuff.
Yeah, and those plays really matter when dampening stacks up that high, right? Like one Nourish really is the difference, and one low Cyclone on the Ironbark or something like that is absolutely crazy plays. And we were saying that a little bit yesterday, that the Rogue Mage Druid from Method Black really has been on point this season, and we were even starting to have a few questions. Obviously, Cloud9 came through with that close victory against Resurgent yesterday, kind of comparing the two teams.
Yeah, I mean, Method Black this is the Method Black syndrome, though. Like, every single time we have cups, they just look like, you know, okay, these guys are going to win BlizzCon. These guys are going to win everything. They're just dominating. But then at LAN, I feel like they do a couple of, you know, questionable choices in terms of compositions. They just play stuff that we never seen instead of the stuff that they've been owning with, you know, the entire season. So we'll see how it goes for them. One thing is sure, though, this is another cup where Method Black looks pretty likely to make it into the finals once again.
Yeah, Method Black's made it to every single grand final this year, in the cups at least. They need to up their performance on LAN, but for now they're looking absolutely great. 2-0 up in this series. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the midst of another 3-0 potentially. It's one thing we've definitely seen this weekend. A lot of teams just kind of sweeping each other. We've seen a lot of 3-0s, we've seen a lot of 3-1s. Only a couple of the teams have really taken us to Game 5, and that is, of course, the goal for now for Diabolus, who find themselves 2-0 down against Method Black. But we were talking about it before the break. We have to continue talking about it. Method Black are just looking unstoppable this season. Literally no one has been able to beat them so far, Zico.
Yeah, I mean, Method Black's main competition has been wildcard throughout, you know, majority of these tournaments, and wildcard has been, you know, they kind of been on the down low a little bit, and now we finally get the Rogue Mage Druid mirror.
Yep.
The heavily anticipated Rogue Mage Druid mirror.
Ooh.
Diabolus. They're famous for their Druid tunneling strategy in Rogue Mage Druid mirrors. Let's see if they can put it to the test.
I'm literally jumping up and down in my chair. We've been waiting for this for so long. The Rogue Mage Druid. We hear in the backstage that Diabolus should win this. Let's see if they can against Method Black.
All right, both mages just meeting each other in midfield, tossing frost bolts at each other. Who's going to get crowd control first? Chaz is in the Cyclone. Asgarath is not, so he should be able to easily deal with this first attack. Both of the mages appear to be the target for now, which is totally different than we saw in North America. The rogues were the primary focus. I'm curious to see how Europe plays the Rogue Mage mirror matchup in comparison.
Is Waz and Nixie just going for a re-stealth? Yeah, it looks like they open up on the mages, immediately just go for a re-stealth, now realizing they cannot. Looking to go for some stuns over onto Alec. Nixie lands a cheap shot. Is there going to be follow-up crowd control? Chaz gets caught into a Cyclone. Raikou in a kidney shot. Good attempt here by Diabolus. Wash trying to defuse the situation with a Garrote Silence onto Alec and a stun on Nixie, controlling up the enemy team. But I still think Raikou could be in some trouble. Gladiator Safeguard does proc. Polymorph secured onto Chaz. Doesn't want to trinket out of that just yet. Asgarath actually sits the blind into a full ring of frost, and Alec appears to be A-OK.
All right, interesting decision by Diabolus to sit all that crowd control. Perhaps Method Black can develop some momentum here. Alex still isn't totally recovered. Vendetta is rolling for Waz. A bit surprising to not see Iron Bark activated to trade for that cooldown. Waz sets up a Shadow Step kick, but even that's not enough to dent him. Raikou is the one who's actually just taking huge.
Oh!
Okay, that's an oof.
Oh no!
That's an oof.
You cast him, Sid. You said that Raikou takes 20% less damage. The Raikou buff, he ends up dying in the opener to Diabolus. Okay, that's not fair. That doesn't really show us the mirror. We've been anticipating this for so long, and Raikou go and does that, Zico.
Yeah, and that wasn't even a Druid race. Like,
yeah, we had so many things that we wanted to see from that game.
That counts.
That counts?
That counts.
it counts?
Diabolus are by far and away the best Rogue Mage Druid mirror now.
I mean,
Well, whenever another mage dies without blocking, obviously it counts here.
yeah. I mean, counted with me.
Counted with Venuki, right?
I don't even have to make the pun. This is great. I was saving it. But what actually happened here, Zico?
Well, we're going to take a look at exactly that right now. I mean, I think it's just greed.
I mean,
when things like this happen,
I think so.
It always comes down to, greedy plays here. Chaz sitting through a crowd control chain. Asgarth as well caught up in a ring. So we got ourselves a little 2v2 situation. Alec in the kidney shot. Raikou has the Iron Bark here. But then after this Iron Bark, I guess that's when the unexpected burst is going to be landing here. Is going to see exactly what Raikou decides to do. So we see a sheep shot on Chaz. Do they have a blind? Yeah, there it is. There's the blind. And then a kidney shot onto Raikou. So Chaz trinkets out here. And then Raikou barriers. And he just gets smoked.
Yeah, it's actually Waz's smoke bomb.
Yeah.
That's trying to protect him. That really did look quite greedy. It was a big crit at the end, though, I think, from Nixie with the final ambush.
It was a bit uncharacteristic damage, I would say, as well. Because, well, normally the Druid trinkets and uses Iron Bark, but there he had already used Iron Bark, so maybe they thought Chaz had more healing than what he actually did. I don't know. It's a hard one to call as well, because you don't really want Chaz to sit the blind there, because it's a Frost Mage mirror, so he's not really at a risk of getting deleted like that if he trinkets a blind, so he wants to trade it for the blind, whereas it would have been a better trade to trade the block there, because he didn't have the Iron Bark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough call. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think you can put too much blame on Raikou, because the damage did seem quite spiky at the end. Yes, it is greed on their side. Either way, that is going to put the series 2-1. Bear in mind, the last time these two teams met, it was 2-0 to Method Black before it got reverse swept by Diabolus. That was at the spring finals. Method Black will need to learn from their mistake. Their mistake in that series was that they just stuck religiously to the composition they were losing with. Do we want to see them swap it up, assuming Diabolus lock in this Rogue Mage Druid once again?
I don't think so. I mean, I said it counted, but I feel like they still could easily win that. I'm not sure. Maybe they do have, if they have a composition that's just going to beat Rogue Mage Druid, and maybe that's what Diabolus is afraid of, then obviously Method Black should go with that, because if they can get better odds than a mirror match against Diabolus, that's going to be good for them. I mean, that's just the intelligent pick overall.
But the Rogue Mage players.
The Rogue Mage players? I mean, they kind of are.
Are they going to lose a Rogue Mage mirror and just accept that?
This is the Rogue Mage syndrome, where you get so into the mirror match. There's so much pride that goes into being the team that can win in mirror matches.
I love that. But that's great. That's what last year was all about in Europe.
But the good thing is, Method Black now is Swapsy, who just kind of slaps that pride out of them. He's like, if you guys are going to lose, you're out of here.
Come here.
You guys are bad. Sorry. We're switching it up.
I mean, Swapsy does.
That's true.
He humbles this team a little bit, because
they needed that
on his high horse. Like, oh my god, I didn't have to block this game. Yeah, you died. You didn't have to block this game. Swapsy's like, yeah, but I mean, they won. I mean, now I'm going to come in on Elemental and destroy them or something. I don't know. What could they actually play though as a counter to the Rogue Mage? Because Rogue Mage has been really strong both in Europe and North America. Like we saw Cloud9 starting to even favor it a bit over the Mage Lock Druid yesterday.
I would have to guess something that involves a DK. Just a hunch that I have. Swapsy on the DK, maybe Waz on his Windwalker. It's pretty okay matchup, I would say, especially if you have the map advantage and you pick a small map. But I don't think Rogue Mage Druid really seems to have like a obvious counter that we've seen. Actually, they could go Fire Mage, Rogue
Mage Paladin. Yeah.
That's something.
They could go Fire Mage, Rogue Paladin. Yeah.
I want to see that. That'd be nice.
That would be nice. The question is, Chaz does play Paladin, but in 8.2, it's a little bit different. Has he played it enough? No, their pride is going to come in.
I love it. I'm so happy.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean, there's a very good chance they could win, right? We're not counting them out by any means. That was kind of against the run of play. Neither side had really had the chance to build a lead in that game.
Yeah, I mean, one obvious difference I saw between the build that Raikou was playing in the last game and Alec was their essences. So Alec actually decided to go with the Conflicted Strife, so he basically got a free Temporal Shield, and that added defense is just really solid in a matchup like this. Raikou decided to go for the Vision of Perfection and said he didn't use the Temporal Shield, so opting to go for a little bit more offense, but if you're playing a match where the mage is the main target, I feel like Temporal Shield just has so much value, so we'll have to see if Raikou decides to make that adaptation going into game number 2 of these Rogue Mage Druid mirrors.
It's also interesting to see the rogues. I assume they're running different races. One must be Night Elf, I assume, for Nixie, and then Waz running the human with the Relentless. We'll have to see how it does all play out. The series is 2-1 still in favor of Method Black, but the mirrors are 1-0 in favor of Diabolus. Could this be another reverse sweep, Sid?
I don't know if you really... I don't count the last game. I think that's just a bit of a throwaway.
And the scoreboard counts it.
An oof moment. The scoreboard counts it, but here now in this next game, I think if Method Black cleaned it up. They also maybe haven't played a Rogue Mage Mirror in 8.2 in some time. Talents have changed here. Temporal Shield for both mages, as they were the targets, so they want a little bit more defense. This always happens in Rogue Mage, especially European Rogue Mages. The mages just run in melee range of each other and start frost bolting. They don't even care about the stealth start. They just want to immediately start generating damage. Crowd control, though, secured for Diabolus and the Chaz, but they're actually going for blind first. Method Black make a big move, committing that big crowd control, and they don't get any follow-up. They don't get any cooldowns. I would say that Diabolus are in a good position now.
Yeah, Chaz looking for a Cyclone, does manage to find it with a Polymorph on Nixie. Beautiful cross crowd control. Chaz getting a bash on Asgarath. It should be Alec that's in trouble. There's no Temporal Shield, but unfortunately there's no follow-up crowd control. Chaz with another Cyclone. He's going to be freezing Alec's hit points. Nixie looking for a Smoke Bomb play, but unfortunately Alec in that Cyclone wasn't able to get out too much damage. Now, big burst coming in onto Raikou. Temporal Shield should be enough to bounce him back, but that was a nice Cyclone by Asgarath. Beautifully done, absorbing all of that healing. Now Raikou could be in a little bit of trouble. Gladiator Safeguard procs. Ironbark has already been traded out, and Raikou is completely on the back foot.
What is happening? Is Method Black wearing gear? It feels like Diabolus are totally in control of this game. They sat through blind, didn't have to do anything. They've got so much pressure. I'm waiting for Method Black to finally turn it around. They drop Smoke Bomb, but they just walk out of it. This is a big wasted Smoke Bomb now as well. This is just sloppy from Method Black here in games 3 and 4. I mean, this could potentially go to a game 5 if it keeps up. Diabolus have crowd control on 3 members. Raikou is isolated. If they can get an Ice Block this early, that's devastating. Big Flurry could find it. Cycloned on Ironbark. Great play by Asgarath.
Ooh, kidney shot from Waz. It looks like they're changing target. They're changing pace. They're going to be going after Asgarath instead, stealing Diabolus' strategy. Raikou's still a little bit low. Asgarath looking to get away. Raikou could be in some trouble. He's really low. Is he going to 2 games in a row without Ice Block?
Close.
He does manage to get it off, but Diabolus, like you said, they just seem to be in complete control.
I mean, this is actually insane. I think Method Black may have to change their composition if this keeps up. What's so surprising is that Method Black, I think, are something like 8-0 against Change My Mind in the Rogue Mage Mirror, but now here against Diabolus, it seems like a totally different team. They're desperate. They have to attack Asgarath. They're too far behind. They have to find a kill there. Raikou in trouble, potentially still on Hypothermia. Cold snaps for an Ice Barrier, Absorption, then tries to blink away, but Nixie connects. Waz tries to peel him away. Waz still gunning for the kill on Asgarath. Method Black at this point have said, all right, we're not winning the Mage race. We need to try and kill Asgarath. Waz is just Terminator style at him to try and find a kill, but the longer they spend on him, I think the more Ice Blocks Raikou is going to expend. Now deciding to come back onto Alec, but Asgarath is not in any crowd control. No counterspell to stop his healing or his Cyclones. Waz gets Cycloned. That should prevent a lot of damage on Alec. Raikou gets stunned by Nixie. Is Alec going to blink into crowd control Chaz? Doesn't look like he can. There's a decent amount of pressure towards him. Method Black need to start getting things rolling here. They still haven't gotten through the Gladiator's Medallion of Asgarath. They still haven't gotten through the first Ice Block. There's a big lead for Diabolus.
Diabolus is looking good. Chaz does have a little bit more mana than Asgarath, I believe, in this situation, but I don't think it's going to come down to that. Waz actually making an attempt now over on a Nixie. Frozen Orb gets dropped out with a kidney shot. Asgarath forced to trinket out of a blind, I do believe. Actually, I don't think it was the blind, so now he won't have that available a little bit later on. Kitty shot now secured over onto Chaz. A big attempt here by Diabolus. This is their strategy. They look for these all-in attacks on the Druid. They might be able to get it done. Safeguard procs. It's Barkskin, Iron Bark, Trinket, everything out of the way. Chaz doesn't seem like he can recover. If Nixie can stay on target, Chaz is going to be in a world of hurt. Raikou blinks in, trying to help him out. Frost over on Nixie, and looks like Chaz is able to escape. Alec with that Ray of Frost is keeping him low. That Cyclone could be the game-winning Cyclone. If Nixie can get to his target, if he can land a stun onto Chaz, it's over. But unfortunately, Raikou and Waz back him up. Nixie gets caught into crowd control and has to change his target. That was a really nice attempt there by Diabolus, but Chaz manages to hold on.
Smoke bomb attempt here from Nixie, but Raikou gets out of it instantaneously. Not going to get any value off of that. Mana is heavily in favor of Method Black, but Raikou is so far behind on cooldowns. His Gladiator Safeguard has proc. Nixie in trouble now. Method Black mixed it up again, trying to find some vulnerability on another target, but Nixie looks A-OK, looking to lead the charge for the second ice block. Alec, in the meantime, burning through a cold snap as well.
He traded out an ice block just for nothing.
I mean, maybe he doesn't want them to be going after Nixie. It seems uncertain as to why Alec would do this. Maybe potentially just big mistakes from both mages in this series overall. We're in the upper bracket final, a best of 5. The winner of this advances to the grand final. The loser goes down to the lower bracket to face N-Light. And if you're N-Light, I'm wondering what composition you're going to bring to prepare against them. I almost think that N-Light would prefer to get Diabolus down in the lower bracket. Their compositions are a bit more predictable than that of Method Black. Method Black have so many in their arsenal, and N-Light are so limited. So I think if you're N-Light, you're cheering for Method Black right now to just take this and close it out so that you have a better opportunity against the more limited team in terms of composition. Asgrath is still very far behind on mana, and Ice Blocks surprisingly are even at this point. No Gladiator's Medallion for Nixie. I would say that Method Black have battled their way back into this game with just consistent pressure.
Yeah, I mean, Alec, like we kind of talked about, he traded out one of his ice blocks, so he's on an even footing with Raikou. In fact, he's behind because Raikou had to use an ice block earlier, which means his third ice block and Cold Snap will be coming up a little bit sooner in the match. So if Method Black can keep up this consistent pressure, things are going to be looking good. Asgrath a little bit low on mana. Alec gets interrupted. Good damage coming in. Nixie shuts it down a little bit with a kitty shot over on Raikou. Raikou looking for crowd control. Finds the Ring of Frost onto Asgrath. Now Alec's in trouble. Temporal Shield gets traded out. Is he going to be able to survive? It procs. Didn't do that much healing. Raikou and Waz still all over Alec. Asgrath does have the Iron Bark. Is he going to throw it out? Overgrowth. No Iron Bark going to be traded out. Really? He throws the Cyclone onto Raikou. Alec should be able to recover. And it looks like Diabolus, they're back in it.
Yep, both teams battling it out here now at 10% dampening. Asgrath jumping over, looking to help with crowd control. Snipes the Hibernate with the Ring of Frost combo. Raikou is isolated. This could be his second ice block. They need a little bit more damage. Can they find it? Waz is shutting him down. They don't have the damage potentially now. Raikou blinks away, polymorphs the Rogue while Asgrath is interrupted and can't dispel. Raikou holds on to his second ice block as a result of Waz's defensive maneuvers. Chaz still maintains a significant mana advantage. Alec is going to be down 1 ice block to 2 here very shortly in another 30 seconds. He may just go down without blocking. It would be a massive blunder if he did so. Temporal Shield activated right before Asgrath gets crowd controlled. Nicely done by Alec. This is absorbing all the damage and healing him back up, but equally so, Method Black secure crowd control, and the chain is quite long. Will Alec fall? He's interrupted. Raikou is low as well. They can't afford to throw here. Diabolus potentially taking this to a game 5. Comet Storm comes crashing in, but Iron Bark's active from Chaz, denies the kill. Alec appears to be the one who's in trouble. Still no Iron Bark from Asgrath for 4 more seconds. Alec gets cycloned at low health, denying crowd control off of the cheap shot of Nixie. Nixie is now cycloned. Alec is taking a huge amount of damage. Chaz is moving forward to crowd control Asgrath. He gets the cyclone. Alec could be in trouble. He's stunned up. Nixie slows down the fight by stunning Raikou at the same time, but the cyclones just keep coming onto Asgrath. Iron Bark needs to be enough here. Looks like it's going to be for Alec. Waz in a polymorph, Chaz in a hibernate. Perfect crowd control from Diabolus here to reverse the pressure onto Raikou.
Yeah, Alec in a growth silence, getting shut down a little bit here by Waz. But in the meantime, Raikou also taking quite a bit of burst. Alec looking to get some damage rolling. Both Druids out of crowd control right now. Chaz looking for a Cyclone, finds it on Asgrath. Alec could be in some trouble. This could be his second ice block. He's not messing around. He trades it out, and he's got another minute and 20 seconds until his third ice block and cold snap are going to become available. That means he is a little bit of a vulnerability here for Diabolus. Method Black, they could close out the game right now. One good crowd control chain on Asgrath. They can force out a Trinket with the blind, then land a Ring of Frost off the back of a bash or a cheap shot. That's what they need to win the game. Alec getting a little bit low. Still a ton of damage coming in from Meth Black. Beautiful smoke bomb by Waz. Tranquility gets traded out by Asgrath to keep him alive. Alec blinks away. Waz follows him with the Shadow Step. He's going to be all over him. Asgrath into a bash. Is there a follow-up Ring of Frost? Unfortunately, not able to find it. Raikou is out of line of sight. He's just going to be looking to get some damage rolling, but I think Alec with the Temporal Shield, with the Iron Bark, should be able to bounce back. That Cyclone was just insanely well timed by Chaz. He denies the Temporal Shield healing. He denies the healing from the Iron Bark. And now Alex is going to be in some trouble.
Yeah, Alec is going to be in a lot of trouble. He needs 24 seconds. Is he going to have 24 seconds on the clock? Method Black could push forward with the Frozen Orb. They've got Alec pinned down in a kidney shot. This damage could be overwhelming. 16 more seconds. He blinks away, but he's got follow-up. Waz is going to close it out. Method Black take the series 3-1. They're in the grand final once again, and now Diabolus have to fight in the lower bracket against Enlight.
Yep, Diabolus, they started the game off very lively, but toward the end it just seemed the life was sucked out of them a little bit by Method Black. They were losing on mana. In the end, all of the ice blocks rotated back for Raikou, and honestly a very clean game, especially toward the end from Method Black.
Yeah, absolutely, and again, we've been highlighting it quite a bit, but just look at the replay. Chaz, every single time there's a defensive active, offensive Cyclone, allows you to get the DR back, denies the defense. You know, the Iron Bark actually increases healing and reduces damage, denies, you know, the healing of the Temporal Shield every single time, pushing in, gets the bash, goes for Hibernates, goes for Cyclones. If he can't Cyclone Asgrath, then he's still going for Cyclones on Nixie, still looking for Cyclones on Alec, and mana management as well. I mean, this is a mirror match, and Chaz always finds good opportunities to go for these drinks as well. He's just such an all-star on the day here. We can see Waz doing the setup, and Raikou is actually Cyclone himself here, so he's not going to be able to follow that up. And Nixie is trying to get some pressure going onto Chaz, so he's just pre-Iron Barking, playing very defensively now. And while that's happening, you know, the damage just goes down.
Yeah, and I think Waz was doing a good job with his stops. The entire team just comes together. Like Method Black, as we say time and time again, there's a reason they've been in every single grand final in Europe this year, is that they're just so consistent. Any matter, all four of the members. Swapsy, we haven't even seen him that much, but he's absolutely phenomenal as well. And they're worthy of the grand finals. Now our next series in Europe, we have two more. We have to find our other grand finalists. Will be a lower bracket bout between Enlight and Diabolus, of course, and this one should be really good because Enlight, they've already beaten a few of these Rogue Mage teams. If Diabolus throws the same at them, there's a good chance they could go through to the grand final themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Enlight, they have been a little bit unpredictable here, running sort of oddball compositions with the Jungle Cleave, with the Ret Warrior, but they seem to be on fire. They are prepared for this tournament. Although they're in the lower bracket, they've been making a tear. I mean, they took down Chalky Milkman, they took down Change My Mind, they took down Zyzon. Now, can they take down Diabolus? And I have a funny feeling they're definitely going to give them a run for their money.